Welcome to the Total Boss Podcast, and I'm your host, Christiano Green, a podcast where we talk about finding fulfillment through self-development, being a leader of your own life, and getting the most out of it as well. Tenacity, originality, talent, authenticity, and being legendary. It's all about living your best life. Hello, all you total bosses out there, and welcome to another episode of the Total Boss Podcast. Yes, it has been about 6 months since our last episode, so this is a relaunch episode, and I am your host, Christiano Green, and I am a mindset and relationship coach for both women and gay men, and I've helped hundreds of gay men over the last, 2, 3, 4 years to really find more love and fulfillment in their life, in their career, and in their relationship. So what are we going to cover today on the podcast? I'm really going to talk a little bit about the podcast, what's been happening over the past 6 months, and then jump in and talk a little bit about one of my favorite topics, which is self-care. So let's jump into, relaunching the podcast and why it's been on hiatus for the last 6 months. So, for most of you listeners who've been around for a while, I've done about 70 odd episodes of the Total Boss Podcast, over the year and a half prior to me taking a hiatus, right? And I did this weekly. I would bring out an episode every week, and I'd have lots of different topics that related to, to mostly to gay men, because back then that was what I was solely focusing on, was coaching just gay men. And, I had a lot of fun doing the podcast, a lot of great stuff that I shared, and I was really, enjoying it. But when I was, in the process of, bringing in and adapting and shifting and trying to bring in a bit of a new energy, which was coaching women, I put this podcast on hold, and I created a different podcast called the Liberated Woman Podcast. And I was doing that for, a couple of months. But I kind of felt like, on one, I was only able to talk about this, and on the other, I was only able to talk about that. And, I was getting a bit myself, I was getting a bit caught up in that. So I kind of just put things on hold and stopped both podcasts, and just decided to, that I'd let myself figure things out. In that same process, I created a brand new online course, which is called the 21-day, Gay Men's Guide to Love and Happiness online course program, right? And, it's a course which is 21 days long, and it's all about how gay men can cultivate more self-love and happiness into their lives. And what do we need to do by doing that? How do we build more confidence? How do we overcome depression and loneliness and anxiety and body image issues, right? How do we cultivate better relationships? What do we need to do to look at every area of our life, and how can we improve every area of our life so that we do really understand what self-love is all about, what happiness is all about, and bring that into our life? And so I created that course and launched that, in July, which was fantastic. And I've loved being able to do that and put that together. So that's kind of the projects that I've been working on over the past 6 months that kind of left me, focused on those things. But, now that the course has dropped, which is out there, you can go to www.theglobalpridecollective.com and have a look at that program if it's something that you're interested in doing. But now that it's dropped, I'm now focusing on what's next. And, I had a vision last week that, it was time for me to get back into this podcast. And, I started thinking that, why do I need to separate it from being totally all about gay men, and why can't I help, women as well? And so I've decided to start talking about topics that are relevant to both communities, right? Women and gay men, right? So, that's why there's going to be a lot more stuff around self-care, things that I'm really passionate about, and stuff that I know that you guys are interested in as well. So, of course, if there are topics that you guys want me to talk about, want me to share about, then feel free to, send me a DM or reach out to me or via email, whatever you do. You can contact me on all social media platforms, of course, and share with me your thoughts, your feelings, because I want to make sure that I'm bringing topics that are relevant to where you're at in life as well. So yes, I'm bringing this back out. And so let's talk about kind of what is this podcast all about. So it's called the Total Boss Podcast, right? And what does that stand for? So really, when I look at it, I kind of broke it down into 5 different areas. And we've got tenacity, originality, talent, authenticity, and legendary. We also talk about things like self-development, we talk about relationships, we talk about business, we talk about life, and we talk about leadership, because those are the things that I have a lot of experience doing. Prior to me starting my coaching business, I led a massive team of 300 people in the corporate world. And so leadership was one of the skills that I was really, becoming a master at, and something that I really love to be able to do. That's why, of course, getting into coaching, using those skills has been super important, especially when I'm sharing things on the podcast, talking about things on the podcast, and, really coming up with ideas to create new courses, create new programs, so that I can bring out new things for so many of you guys. And of course, I'm going to be continuing to create new programs, because I've got a new course coming out as well that I'm going to be working on as well. Not as intense as the last one, but something that I think is super helpful to where we're at. So we'll talk about that, more of that, as the weeks go on. But at the moment, that's kind of where it's been. So when we talk about tenacity, what does tenacity really mean? Tenacity of the human spirit, right? And so many, women and so many gay men can understand the concept of tenacity. We have had to really be tenacious beings, to get through life sometimes, especially when, we're marginalized, we're sometimes looked over, and sometimes, that can come up with a lot of different feelings. So I feel like, the word tenacity really represents how I see gay people, and also how I see women, because we have to be tenacious to overcome, like I said, the struggles that we've gone through as well. When we talk about originality, and I love the word originality, because basically, at the end of the day, we're all original people. There's no other Christiano, there's no other Mary, there's no other Bob, right? And, if you can really harness and understand what about you that makes you special, what are the things that you love, what are the things that you can do in life and in your relationships and in your career, then, you're going to start to find, how can I bring more fulfillment there? How can I enjoy more of my life? By being an original person, you have original thoughts. You don't allow other people to influence you. Well, of course, outside of your own, say, feelings and thoughts and opinions. Of course, you can get influence, we all can. And I know that it's important to sometimes get influence in positive ways. But what I say that is like, when we're original, we can hear what you have to say, but we can choose how we want to respond to that, because we're still original beings, right? So that's why originality is important as well. Talent. Now, similar thing there. Talent is important for us because every single person has a very different talent in life. And talent is just you putting time and effort and energy into something over and over again, but for you to be talented at it, right? Me getting in front of the camera, me talking on podcasts. I hated public speaking. I was a shy little, gay boy who had no friends at one point. So talking, in public, or sharing this, or doing events, where I've had, hundreds of people turn up, I wasn't good at that. I had to learn to get better at it. I had to learn to do it, which is one of the reasons why doing a podcast is important to me, because I get to use my skills, my speaking skills. Now I'm doing more on video, because before, for anyone who can remember the Total Boss podcast, from the past, every single episode was just an audio version. I never did a video version. And back then, it was too much effort and time. And whereas now I'm like, let's record and let's go, because I believe it's important just to level myself up. So I'm working on, improving my skill sets so that I can improve my talent, so that I can share my message with more people out there as well. Let's move on to A for authenticity, because I believe that, like, at the core of everyone, we all just want to be authentic. We all just want to be ourselves. We don't want to struggle trying to fit into someone else's mold of who we should be. And so being authentic means that we get to, make our own choices. We get to make our own decisions. We get to take the action that works for us. And we get to work on having the beliefs that feel right for us. Because we all know that we can shift our beliefs, but sometimes we just don't know how to do that. And so we're going to talk a lot about that on the podcast as well. And finally, legendary. Legendary for me is just like being your absolute best self. How do I strive to become better than I am today? And what are the things that I want to work on? Because yes, I want to accept myself as I am, and that's perfect. And that's great. And we all want to be able to get to that place. But getting to a place of being legendary means that, like, I can be better, I can do better, and I want to be better for myself, for the people around me, and for the things that I'm working towards, right? So for me, I want to be legendary for the people that I coach, for the people that I help, for the mission that I serve, right? And I've got a lot of great things coming up that I'm really super excited to be sharing with you at the right time on this podcast. So for me, legendary is just like striving to be your best at all times, no matter whatever circumstances you're going through, because sometimes, life's just going to come and slap us in the face. And sometimes we just really need to allow ourselves to say, hey, look, you know what? Today's not a great day, but I'm going to give my best for what I can today. And tomorrow I'm going to bring a hell of a lot more than that, because that's what's going to happen in life, is we're always going to get stuff coming at us. So legendary means just being your best in the moment as possible, and knowing that I can do better each day as I choose to do so. So that's kind of the understanding of it. Now, like I said, it's going to be about 2 regular weekly episodes. I'm going to be sharing this on YouTube with the video now. I'm going to be having this back on Apple Podcasts. It's going to be on Amazon. It's going to be Google, Spotify, and then wherever else, podcasts are that you can search as well. So it'll be on all the major platforms for you as well. So that's kind of talking about that. That's the relaunch part. Let's jump into a couple of things that I wanted to share today around self-care, because that's the main topic for today, is actually self-care. Now, of course, we all heard of the concept of self-care, and it is one of the major components of self-love, right? When we talk about wanting to love ourselves more, we have to understand how we can take better care of ourselves. Now, we all know that self-care is important, but so many of us struggle to actually implement it on a daily basis. And sometimes when the going gets tough and we get into the stress mode, our self-care goes out the window. So, it's important for us to talk about and for us to be able to understand, because, there's a science behind why self-care is important and how you can make sure that you utilize it in your life. There is an art form of self-care, and what are the things that kind of work for each individual person? Because, my self-care routine might not be the things that really work for you, right? But the good thing about self-care is that there are some fundamental things that you can do and understand about it that's going to make it be super cool for you. So I'm going to share 5 kind of, areas today that we're going to cover around self-care. And the first one is something that we've kind of talked about already, which is embracing your authenticity, right? Your authentic self is going to tell you what it needs, right? And if you listen to yourself in those moments of stress and, frustration and, sadness or anger, whatever, your body and your mind are giving you a message. And sometimes, we can go and react to certain things that happen in the moment, and we're moving away from self-care. And sometimes we can take a step back and say, hey, what do I need right now for me to be in the right headspace, the right mind space to actually deal with this thing correctly? Now, there've been many days where I've been working, and then something comes and knocks me out. And, I've gone back and I've worked, and the work that I put out has just not been as good as I wanted it to be. And there are other days which is the things that I work on now, is where I go off and I go, you know what, I need to take myself away and I need to do some things for myself to get back to a good place so that I can do this work, right? And I'm grateful that I have the luxury of a lot of the work that I do, that I can go away and come back and do it at those times, because I've created that for myself to have space, I like to work, 4 or 5 hours a day and then do a lot of other things that are good for me for the rest of the day. There are obviously times where I'll be working 8, 9, 10 hours, like I was, for the last couple of months, bringing out this course, really doing all the, the script writing, the recordings, the editing, all of that stuff to make sure it was out and stuff like that. And I love doing it, so because time just flies by when you're in those moments. But what I'm talking about is that, what is your flow? Because oftentimes in life, when we're not embracing our authenticity, we're doing what everyone else tells us to do. You should be working this many hours a day. You should be doing this. And you've got a checklist of all the things that you've got to get done. And sometimes that can create a lot of overwhelm. Now, when I left my corporate world, before that, I was working 50, 60 hours a week. I was running my business 20, 30 hours a week on top of that. I was going to the gym. I was hanging out with friends, doing all the things that you do in life. And I was burning the candle at both ends. But I thought, this is the hustle life. This is the hustle life. This is the hustle life, right? But, I wasn't happy and fulfilled, even though I was starting to live my passion and I was really passionate about these things. I was at the end of the day just feeling drained. Now, I had to work out my flow. What is my flow? And what does flow mean? It means if I'm being authentic to myself, what do I want to be doing each day? How does my day how do I want my day to be? I don't want to get up at 6 in the morning and start working. No, I want to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I want to walk my dogs. I want to come home. I want to go to the gym with my partner. I want to come after that and have a coffee, then go get ready. My partner goes to work and then I can do my thing, right? Go up to my office that I have that's separate from my home and have my coaching sessions, run, free events, whatever it is that I'm doing. I like to be able to do those things, right? And then as it comes to, later in the afternoon, I like to head off to the spa, where I have the sauna, the steam room, the ice baths, the jacuzzi, right? The pool. And I just want to chill out and relax. And sometimes I take my iPad and I'll do work there as well, because I'll be in the flow. I'll be like, you know what? I've just had an hour of taking care of myself. I've got some creative ideas. So what do? I'll do that. So it all depends on what works for you. And you should be able to create a routine that's authentic to you. So embracing your authenticity really truly means just really figuring out how do you want your day to be, and how is it going to bring out the best in you, so that, like I said, when you're taking care of yourself, you're doing it on a regular basis. You're making sure that it's important as well. So step number 2 kind of follows on to this. This is prioritizing your mental health, right? When it comes to, the gay community, we're 2 to 3 times more likely to be dealing with anxiety, with depression, with loneliness, with suicidal thoughts, with addictions, all of the stuff like that. And so if we're not so careful to focus on our mental health, because again, we can get caught up in perfectionism, we can get caught up in, people pleasing, we can get caught up in just the mundane stuff, right? The internal world that we get so used to. So for us, it's for women, we can easily get caught up in just being there, supporting everyone else, because women are so used to putting other people first, right? So it's the same thing. If you have to, what do you need to do when it comes to your self-care to prioritize your mental health? Like, is it that, you have a certain routine that's around, what works for you in the morning and what works for you in the afternoon, and taking regular breaks? Or is it that you have to say, I have to start saying no to other people, and I have to start saying yes to myself? Some people like to meditate. Some people like to, go for a little dance around their house. Some people like to journal. I find a combination of, for me, is there's meditation, there's journaling, and then there's just doing things that I really enjoy doing. So for me, mental health is just really important for me to focus on, because I've been at rock bottom moments in my life. And I know I've shared that on the podcast before, and I'll probably share a bit more about it as we continue on as well. But prioritizing your mental health is so important, and self-care is going to be great for that, because self-care means I care about myself and I'm going to put myself first, no matter what else is going on here. And of course, certain situations may not allow you to do that, but what you can do is go, right now, I need to do this thing, and then, straight after, I'm going to take care of myself and do what I need to do. People say that, I'm going to take my self-care day once a month. Self-care should be a daily thing, right? So prioritizing your mental health should be a daily thing as well. Now, the third thing that I want to focus on here is loving your body, right? And then, which is ultimately loving ourselves, right? There are so many of us out there that really have a really poor self-image around ourselves. And we look in the mirror and we'll say things like, oh my God, you look ugly, or you're so fat, or, what's wrong with you? Why did you say that? Why did you do that, right? Whereas when we talk about self-care, loving ourselves is looking in the mirror and talking about all the things that we love about ourselves. Look at you. You're an amazing person. You're such a kind person. You're such a giving person. You're such a friendly person, right? You're like, people like you. You have a great personality. You're hardworking. You're following your dreams. You're working towards things. You're taking care of yourself. Right? If you start to look in your mirror and really look in your eyes, give yourself a high five and start saying really positive things to yourself, you start to realize that your image will change about how you see yourself physically, but also mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So we want to make sure that, like I said, loving ourselves, and loving our body is important. And when we talk about loving our body, that's, nurturing it, right? Making sure that you're getting the right exercise that suits you and your body and your lifestyle, that you are eating the right kinds of things that are suitable to you, that are nourishing to your body, right? That you're drinking plenty of water, you're getting plenty of sleep. When I was younger, I used to friggin' burn the candle at both ends. I would be always up super late. I'd be out with friends, drinking, doing all the things, up till 1 or 2, getting up at 6, and, going to work, hanging out with friends again, like really not eating well, really not sleeping well, not drinking enough water, drinking alcohol a lot, and just really totally not doing well for my body. And that takes a toll on itself, to the point where, I was dealing with exhaustion for quite some time. Now, like I said, over the past few years where I really, really focused on it, I no longer drink alcohol, right? I focus on drinking enough water. I focus on eating correctly. I focus on getting a lot of exercise. I go to the gym 6 times a week. I play tennis with a friend once a week. I walk on the beach 2 or 3 times a week. I walk my dogs every single day, right? I get out and about. outside of the house, and I do the things that are going to help me personally, but then also like that's physical, that's mental, that's emotional, that's spiritual, and that's energetically. So I'm really focusing on loving your body and doing the right things for it, but also seeing your image as a different thing as well. The fourth one is building the right support system. I know that there are so many of us out there that don't always have the right kinds of people around us. Now, what we talk about when we say proximity is power, which is, a concept that we talk about in self-development, is that the people that you spend the most time around are the people that are influencing you, and you're probably going to end up like that, right? So this could be your physical health, this could be your mental health, emotional health, this could be your growth, this could be what you're doing for a living, right? But if you're focusing on people here and you're noticing that all the people around you are negative, you're going to realize that probably your mindset's negative as well. So if you're someone who wants to find more positivity, you want to get more healthy, start finding friends or people around you that can be in that way. Sometimes, like I said, it's easier to find friends in that rounds, or sometimes it's, we might have to join different programs, right? I remember, for me, when I was really starting my journey of really getting healthier in my body, I hated the gyms, but I joined in there 45 because all the people there were like, it was a community, right? And so I got to hang around these people, I got to make some friends with these people, and it was, exercise became fun for me, and I started enjoying it. And so I was going 6 days a week, right? Because of that. And that's how I started into my fitness, because I started to hang around people that were on that journey as well. Same when it comes to friends. I realized that when I gave up drinking alcohol, I had to cut off some friendships for quite some time where I had to distance myself from them because I couldn't go out with them and they're drinking every time and I'm not, because easily the amount of times I tried in the past to not drink, I got influenced too, because after a while you see someone getting a bit tipsy, you go, I'm just going to have one, and you end up having half a bottle. So for me, I had to separate myself from that. So really about kind of building a support system, finding people who are on the same path as you, who like the self-care things as you, because self-care doesn't have to be just a single thing. You could do self-care with friends. You can do self-care within your relationship, right? It's important to know that like going for a walk and getting out there and doing the exercise for your body can be done with a friend. Going to the gym can be done with a friend. Going to the spa can be done with a friend, right? Reading a book and talking about it with a friend. Like there's so many little things that you can do with other people that'll cultivate, self-care within your relationships as well. So that's important. Finding the right people. And sometimes you need to join an online program, a coaching program, and get support from someone who's really good at self-care or really good at these things. And they can mentor you and guide you and help you in those areas as well. So knowing that, you can get your support system from many different ways is super important as well. And then finally, really cultivating healthy relationships in your life as well. Like I said, we talked about the proximity is power part. This is just taking that to a next level. How do you realize that what relationships in your life right now are toxic and what are healthy? And how do you cultivate better, more healthy ones? And the key to that is really taking care of yourself. Because when you're in a better place, you're not in a toxic place, you're more likely to start attracting and seeing the right kinds of people that you want to be around. And you're also going to realize, oh my God, like, I noticed that I was toxic and I was hanging around toxic people for those reasons because I wasn't in a good place, right? So really focusing on your self-care also means that you're going to start seeing better relationships. You're going to start seeing things and with fresher eyes, because when you're caught up in something, you don't always get to see things perfectly as well. So those are the key 5 things that I really wanted to talk about when it came to self-care. I'd love, if you guys share in the comments below or reach out to me on social media and talk about, when it comes to self-care, what are some of the things that you really enjoy doing? What are some of the things that, you struggle with there? Because like I said, I'm going to be creating a short course around self-care. And so if you've got some feedback about what you want to see in it, about what's important to you around self-care, because I'm going to be talking about the science behind it, I'm going to be talking about the art of it, and I'm really just going to be talking about how you can create a real self-care routine that you could do any day that suits your lifestyle. It's going to be important for you. So if you've got some comments, share them below. Got some questions, share them below. And other than that, I'm going to be seeing you next week for a brand new episode of the Total Boss Podcast. All right, guys, you've got this and I've got you.